Welcome to Fuel Your Drive.
Guys, welcome to Fuel Your Drive. I am your host, Josh York. We have another incredible episode in store for you today. And we got a special guest, and I'm going to let him introduce himself because I'm really excited about this one because we got the OG right now on the call here. So as you know, I love ice baths, and I've been doing ice baths for a very long time, and always had trouble really getting the right one that was super cold, made the ice, and I didn't have to worry about anything else. Well, today's man is the man behind that. Morozko Ice Bath, as you know, is the one I use, and we got the founder on the call with us. Thomas, welcome to Fuel Your Drive. Super excited to have you here, bud.
It's a pleasure to be here, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So let's just start out. Give a little background about yourself and a little bit about the company, and let's kind of dive in from there. But I like to keep my episodes around 30 minutes tops. So I want them to be effective, and I don't want to be too long for our listeners. But
I don't know, Josh. I'm a college professor. I teach engineering. I go on. I might give you a homework assignment somewhere in the middle. We'll have a pop quiz. I'm at Arizona State University. I'm a civil and environmental engineer by training, and ice baths were kind of an accident for me because I got sick of hauling ice around, going to the Quickie Mart and getting 200 pounds and putting it into the stock tank. Because I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, it all melts like 15 minutes in the backyard. And me and a former student thought, well, we're engineers. We ought to be able to invent this thing. And we did. We took apart some refrigerators and we learned how refrigeration works. And next thing you know, we made ice. We had a little party. People came over. Some people wanted to buy them. I think that's great. We were having a great time until I got my lab report back from my blood work. I hadn't had blood work like ever. And so you check all the boxes and you say, give me the standard stuff. And I was like 52 years old. And one of the things that they test is the prostate specific antigens. This is the PSA. Mine came back too high. I didn't know what that meant. So I got to go on Google and I'm reading WebMD and Mayo Clinic. And every single one of these websites in my imagination says, I'm going to die of prostate cancer. I have to run to my urologist. I got to get a prostate exam and a biopsy, and then they get this thing surgically removed. Now, 7 isn't even all that high, but anything above 4 is associated with inflammation and an increased risk of cancer. And I didn't want to do any of that. I talked to some other guys, some of them younger than me, some of them older than me. Some of them had the biopsy, some of them had the prostatectomy, and it sounded awful. So I said, I'm going to find another way. What's good for inflammation? The ice bath. At this point, I had like a Kenmore chest freezer piece of crap, but it was making ice because I hadn't even upgraded myself to my own invention yet. And I got in that thing every day. I built one for myself. I put it on my balcony outside in Arizona. I wasn't doing it because I'm such a tough guy and I work out and I got to recover so I can run another marathon. I got into that because I thought I was going to die. I came out, I was cold. I'd do some jumping jacks and some pull-ups, push-ups, whatever it is, and then I would walk to class. It took me 4 months to have the courage to get my blood drawn again. Because if this doesn't work, Josh, what am I going to do? I didn't even tell my daughter because I knew she would come to me and she's, but Dad, I love you so much. Please go to the doctor. And I couldn't refuse that. So I finally get my blood drawn again. My PSA comes down to 1.8 and my testosterone goes up to 1140 nanograms per deciliter, which is unheard of for a fat college professor in his 50s. So I figure I'm good. I go to the urologist now, like I have a clean bill of health, right? I'm just going to get this all off my conscience. He doesn't care about my PSA. He takes one look at the testosterone results and he's like, this guy, he's juicing. I want one more test, he says. And it had nothing to do with my prostate. He had me test luteinizing hormone. Now, I didn't know any of this at the time because this is, 6 years ago or something.
Yep.
Luteinizing hormone is what signals a man's gonads to make testosterone. So if my testosterone had been high and my luteinizing hormone low, he would have read me the riot act about how I shouldn't be shooting up steroids and this is bad for my body and blah, blah, blah. My luteinizing hormone test came back 8.9, which is off the charts, above range, unheard of for a guy my age. I'm all natural. I never heard from my urologist again. But I started writing articles. I said, the whole world needs to know about what happened to me. Go deeper into the science. It turns out that all sex hormone synthesis originates in the mitochondria. And what's the best thing you can do for your mitochondria? It's an ice bath. When a man gets cold and then he does some exercise, this is called pre-cooling, it boosts his mitochondria and increases his testosterone. So I wrote an article, and I think, Josh, for probably 2 years, you were the only one that ever read it. Because you and I had this conversation where you said you'd always done the ice bath after, for recovery, but you switched your routine. You started doing it before, and this has been working out okay for you.
It has. You know what? I want to ask you a question. Like, what is the time frame from like when you're supposed to exercise from when you go out? Because obviously I don't do it right away. I do it within like the half hour or so. But is there like a time frame that, is from when you get out to when you have to, exercise?
This question comes up a lot because people want to know what's the window. Now, I got the Morozko right on my balcony. I get out and I start my little kettlebells, and I don't really do a lot. I'll do some lunges, some really simple stuff, and I do it right away. But a number of readers have been experimenting. They're like, well, is it okay if 20 minutes goes by? I'm going to drive to the gym. Is it okay if 40 minutes goes by? And the rule of thumb here is if you still feel cold when you're working out, you are still getting the benefit. So for me, I'll do 2 minutes and I'll go straight to a workout. But for somebody who needs to drive, they might stay in for 4 or 5 minutes, do a little extra heat extraction. As long as they still have their faculties, as long as they're not shaking while they're trying to drive to the gym, and they start their workout, start slow, start easy, get the circulation going back into the limbs. It looks like as long as you still feel the chill when you begin your workout, you're still getting the benefit.
That's good. That's good. It's funny in the wintertime, and the place I work out is always cold. Like I don't even think they have heat in the place. It's always cold, but in the winter I'm shivering. Even with my clothes on, I'm shivering as I'm driving there. Now the weather's starting to warm up, so I warm up a little bit faster. But I'm usually around like probably 25, maybe 30 minutes. And I will tell you, like I told you this already, and I've never shared this on my podcast, but I always had low testosterone. My testosterone's always been low, super low, like
It
never like.
seems unbelievable. Like you got the six pack and you got the vasculature and you're in great shape. How could you possibly have low testosterone? And you're not the only one. I
Yeah.
got other guys, former professional athletes, and they're ripped, and yet they're down around 300
I know
because
that's where, and that's where I've always
mitochondria.
been. That's where I
Yep.
always been until I read that article. And and listen, I never enjoy the ice bath. I freaking hate it. And I used to even hate it when I come back from working out. But the difference is though, like I would do it after a workout or after the sauna. It's not that hard to do it because like you're dying in the sauna. So I jump in. But since I made that change, I started, going getting tested, and I don't think I've ever been over 300 ever, like ever.
Mm.
And now I'm almost at 900.
Ta-da!
I know, it's crazy.
That's where you're supposed to be. That's where a healthy man is supposed to be, like almost his entire life. We're not supposed to decline 10% per day or whatever the heck the rules say about aging. That's just an accumulation of mitochondrial damage. When we care for our mitochondria, there's no reason that our testosterone can't stay up what is now considered uncommon or abnormal, but up around 1,000 for our entire middle age. At least now I'm 60 and I'm not exercising any more than I used to. I weigh 220 pounds, which is too heavy for a guy who's almost 6 feet tall. And I'm still a freaking college professor. Last time I checked, I was at 1,010 nanograms per deciliter. It is the
Wow.
hormones that are keeping me healthy, not some workout regimen. And those hormones are produced by my mitochondria.
I love that. Now, is this the same for women too?
Women are a little bit different because they don't make as much testosterone.
Yep.
And there's a lot of misconceptions about women and sex hormones. The dominant sex hormone in men is testosterone. Everybody knows this. The dominant sex hormone in women is testosterone. And nobody knows this. A healthy woman will have 4 times as much testosterone as she will estradiol in her bloodstream. Testosterone is essential for women, but because they don't have as much as men, a healthy man could have 10 times as much as a healthy woman. They don't need to synthesize it all in the ovaries. Testosterone is produced in the skin cells, in the adrenal glands, in the fat cells, and then in the gonads. So it would either be in a man's testicles, which produce a lot of testosterone, or in a woman's ovaries, which produce about 25% of what she has in her bloodstream. What's the best way to stimulate activity in your skin, your fat cells, and your adrenal glands? Get into the ice bath. A woman doesn't even have to exercise afterwards. As soon as she gets in, she will start experiencing a boost. And we know this from saliva tests that have been performed on women, healthy women in their early 20s, where they just stick one hand in a cold bowl of water. The psychologists do this to see whether cussing helps them deal with stress, believe it or not. But they also measured testosterone in women and in men during this test. This is called the cold pressor test. The men got no boost from the cold stimulation because it was just one hand. But the women got it almost instant. That is an immediate increase in salivary testosterone just from the cold stimulation. They're starting from a lower base, but when you stimulate the adrenals and the fat cells and the skin cells, women get an immediate boost in testosterone. So, Josh, if you're getting into the ice bath with your wife, we know that testosterone is the lust hormone. It's the libido hormone. And after maybe 45 seconds or a minute together, she gets a little twinkle in her eye that you're not feeling. Just go with that, Josh. You got to warm up a little bit, but she right away is starting to feel the boost in these sex hormones.
Yeah. Now, what is the deal with people? And again, I know these answers. I just want to provide value to my listeners. But what is the deal with people that say, "Oh, you don't do the ice bath, you're going to get a heart attack. It's too cold. Your body can't handle that." What do you say to those people?
Well, they're wrong. They've been reading too much Wikipedia. I don't know. Maybe they've been listening to Lane Norton or so. There are people out there that get a lot of clicks for bashing ice baths. There was a period of time where Joe Rogan would say how great ice baths were. Jim Gaffigan would come on the Joe Rogan show, and Jim Gaffigan's like, I eat Doritos and microwave food. I don't really need the ice bath. And Joe Rogan would say, oh, it's real. And ice baths were very popular. Then a whole other contingent of people figured out that they could get the clicks by saying ice baths don't work. Ice baths are bad for you. Ice baths will burn out your adrenals. And they're just making stuff up. One of the most popular podcasts ever was when Stacey Sims went on Mel Robbins. And Stacey Sims said, well, women, they shouldn't really ice bath. They maybe get cold, but the warmer temperatures, men and women are different. Look, we all know men or women are different. You don't have to trademark that phrase, but there is nothing about gender that means men should do colder than women. The only important thing is, what is the individual subject's prior state of cold training? You know this from your personal training. You can't go up to one of your new clients and say, hey, here's the right number of reps and the right weight for everybody to do their shoulder press all the time. You have to see, how strong is your client? What's their experience with weight training? It's the same thing with cold. If you're cold trained, then get into that ice. Get the chunks going up to your earlobes, because nothing else is really going to scare the crap out of you and get that nervous system benefit. But if you're brand new to the cold, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, start at 50 degrees. The rule of thumb is go cold enough to gasp and long enough to shiver. When it comes to contraindications, there's a lot of misinformation, misconceptions, and it comes from speculation from a lab in the University of Portsmouth, United Kingdom, where Mike Tipton, whose whole academic mission is to prevent drowning, he speculated that some people were drowning in cold water because they experienced something called autonomic conflict. He's got no data on this. He just published a paper that said, hey, maybe this is a thing that's happening. Wikipedia quoted it, and now it's all over the internet. What I wish they were saying instead is hypertension. If you have chronic high blood pressure, then do not get into the ice bath. Start maybe with the cold pressor test. Start at a warmer temperature. Start just with your face to acclimate yourself to the cold. And the reason is vasoconstriction. Whole body cold water immersion causes vasoconstriction. The blood vessels in your arms and legs will get narrower. They push the blood into your core to defend your core body temperature. And that raises your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is normal, you're fine. But chronic hypertension can lead to something that the clinicians have explained to me is a hypertensive event. So there's acute, temporary, high blood pressure. The two clinicians who've reported this to me, supervised it in their patients, said they got the people out of the ice bath, they rewarmed them, they didn't have to call the ambulance. Everything was fine because they were medically supervised. But heaven forbid somebody with chronic hypertension get into an ice bath because they saw a podcast with you or me and not understand that high blood pressure is the most important contraindication. They're just not getting that off of social media. Now, in some cases, chronic hypertension can be associated with AFib or other heart abnormalities. But the underlying cause here, the underlying concern is not that the ice bath is going to mess up your heart. It's going to mess up your blood pressure. And that could, if you have chronic hypertension, be associated with something that would show up as AFib in your heart. Other than that, we're talking about a lot of bad information. The cold plunge before your workout, followed by the sauna, is now the leading edge protocol. I wish I had a study out of Finland that I could say, hey, look, they took these Finnish subjects and look at how much better everyone was. The research is pre-cool before exercise, huge benefits. Sauna after exercise, huge benefits. What no one has done is done the sandwich study, cold, exercise, and then sauna. We know that the way the research has been done, it's very good for your cardiovascular system because the sauna is vasodilation. The cold contracts the smooth muscle tissue. The sauna relaxes it and opens up the blood vessels. So one of the ways, ironically, to help your heart is to get into the ice bath, do some exercise, and get into the sauna. It is stressful. It is a hormetic stress. It's the stress that stimulates your body to get stronger. And exercise is the same way.
100%, 100%. My rule of thumb is always I look at the person, right? Like if they look good and they look like I want to be like what I want to look, what they want to look like, then I'm gonna be like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna try it, and that's key. But let me ask you a question now. So I always would fill my ice bath with I freeze that thing until it's frozen and smash everything up, and people are like, man, you are crazy. Like you go in that, and again, you also got to be careful because you start, I cut my knees sometimes. You slice yourself on the ice. Is it really necessary to do that, or is it not? And you could just, get to a certain point. Like, because I know some people like my ice bath, it's got to be like what 35 degrees. It gets down, man. It's cold, like really, really cold. I once put a thermometer in there. It was actually what I was reading on the machine. It was even colder than that. So what, like, is that necessary, or is 50 okay, or 45? Like, does it make a difference?
For you and me, it's necessary. Not for everybody. It's not necessary. You can get a lot of the metabolic benefits at 40 degrees. And you listen to Gary Brecka and he'll say, I haven't seen any science that says, there's any benefit. Well, that's because none of the scientists at the universities I'm aware of are as sadistic about it. They're not going to get it all the way down to 34 degrees or to 1 degree C and start putting these naive research subjects. Nobody's doing that study except for one guy. I sent a Morozko to the Lithuanian Sports University. And I said, his name's Marius Brazaitis, and he's done some of the best work on cortisol and cold plunge. I said, there isn't a scientist in the world with the courage to put people in the 1 degree C water with the ice chunks. If I send you a Morozko, will you do it? Now he's running the study, and we can send it to Gary Brecka when it's published and said, here's your evidence. But what Joe Rogan told him was, it sucks worse. And that's why I like it.
Yeah,
You and
dude,
I
sucks.
need it for the mental challenge. If I don't see the ice chunks floating around in there, I'm like, I'll get wet. It'll be fine. But it doesn't make me question my whole existence. And that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I know. It's a crazy thing, man. It's a crazy thing. So now if someone says, you know what, I'd love to get an ice bath, I don't have room for it, where do I put it? What's your answer to that?
I live on the 32nd floor. I probably shouldn't to give you too many details. I live in a high-rise apartment. I have a tiny little balcony. I built a Morozko that fits on my balcony. I have one. We just sold an ice bath to a guy who lives 7 floors higher than me in a high rise in Florida because we have one of the vertical models. These are very compact footprint. You can get one that's fairly light. It'll come up your elevator, it'll fit through your doors. You put it out on your balcony and tell your landlord it's a beer cooler.
That's great.
That's what I do.
That's great. No, I love that. I love that. I love that. Now, um, what is like for someone who can't maybe can't afford to spend the type of money because you are the best of the best like that like I know there's lots of ice baths out there and again like my man Thomas is not giving me a check like I'm being totally transparent with you. It's the best of the best. Like there's nothing. I've used all these other ones. I've tried them. I've seen it. There's zero comparison. Zero. So what if someone can't afford it? Like, do you have options for them to like, do a payment plan or take credit? Like, how does that work?
No,
No.
it's really tough, Josh. The I'll tell you a story. George Kittle can buy anything he wants. He's got all the money for health and fitness. His agent called me up 4 or 5 years ago and said, "Hey, don't you want George in a Morozko?" And I said, "Well, we don't really work that way. Which one of my employees am I going to say you're going to work for free today because this is going to a famous football player?" And of course, the agent was offended, so he got George a free one from a competitor. George didn't like that. He got George another free one from a competitor. He didn't like that one. He tried 3 different ones. Then they go to Las Vegas. They're playing in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. George found Morozko in the hotel room because I got a call from a friend that said, "Wouldn't you please equip the 49ers? Las Vegas is not that far away from Phoenix." We drove him up there. Kittle goes to
I
his
almost I almost sold I almost sold one of those units for you. So I think
r-
one of my buddies bought one. Yeah, your guy, I forgot his name, reached out to me because I was looking for a new one. He's like, I got this one for the 49ers.
yep.
I think my brother bought that one actually. I think my brother might have bought it. Maybe my brother bought it. I forgot.
They were ready to redo their whole locker room. When George walked into the hotel and he turned to the human performance coach, Elliot Williams is his name, and he said, "How the hell did you get Morozko? I've been trying to get my, agent to get me a Morozko for 3 years. I've gone through all the other brands." Well, Elliot said, "I asked if we could borrow one. George bought, Nick Bosa bought, Fred Warner bought, Mitch Wisnowski bought because they didn't know. It wasn't only after they'd experienced it for themselves and said, wow, this is so different. But unfortunately, we make everything in America. I can't call China and get, 6 more at a cut rate and run a deal and say, because I got to pay my people. Everything is made in Phoenix, Arizona by hand. So what are the options for the people that don't make George Kittle money? What are the options for the people that don't have the disposable income? I'm not a bank. The credit card is maybe your best bet. There are other people who will finance the equipment for businesses. We used to have Klarna and Affirm on so that you could buy now, pay later. And when I discovered how badly those companies were ripping people off, I took that down. What stinks about us, you go on Reddit, the number one complaint is Morozko is too damn expensive. And this is a legitimate complaint. You could start with a bathtub. The best way to get cold is in the ocean. Go jump in the Atlantic, for goodness sakes. And if that works for you, then I hope you reach a point in your life where you can crack open your wallet and you say, I got a nice SUV. I drive a $50,000 car. I have a $15,000 ice bath because that's what it's worth it to me to not get type 2 diabetes, to not live with low testosterone, to fix some of my autoimmune disorders. I wish that I had sort of an entry level model, but the cheapest one that we make is 12,500. If you need it, write to me. I'll get you a coupon for $500 off. And I feel like I'm on one of those shows, but right now, that's the best I can do.
Yeah, no, well, listen, I wanted to ask you that question for a reason because I wanted to tell you, like, look, you can save your money and put aside a certain amount of money every month and then buy it in a couple months, but you're not going to buy anything better than this thing. I'll tell you right now. And your health is your wealth. And you can see it and look at me and obviously look at Thomas. We are two very healthy individuals, and the proof's in the pudding. I've been doing this since I'm like 17 years old, but I never was fortunate enough to have the type of machine I have now, which I've had probably. I think I bought that when you guys just started. How long you been around now?
2019, we had our first sale.
Yeah, I think it was just around that time when I bought it.
You are like customer number 19 or something. Like, I'd have to
Yeah,
go look it up, but you are on the leading edge. As a
yeah.
matter of fact, the unit that we sent you is an embarrassment compared to what
And I
we
still
make
have I
now.
still have that same unit to this day. And I only but let me tell you something else. I only had to get it fixed one time.
That's not too bad.
It works like it's incredible, man. And I am thinking about upgrading it. I would like to get the one you have because it's more spacious, when I started, I got like when I first started Ice Bass, I got like I bought it from Home Depot. Like the dividers on the
Yeah.
highways that they fill with like sand or whatever they put in there.
Yep.
I got that and I was jumping in that for a while,
It's
but
kind of like jumping in a garbage can.
yeah, pretty much. But the problem is, all right, in the winter, maybe your cold water could be cold for a little bit, but you end up spending so much money. I bought this commercial ice maker I got from one of these
Yep.
convenience stores. The guy was selling it. I bought one of those ice makers, and it's a royal pain in the ass. You're constantly filling it up, and
Yep.
in the summertime, forget it. It doesn't even last. It doesn't even last. And if you put it in and try to jump in, it doesn't even get cold. Like you need that thing to really cook to be really cold. But it's funny. I got used to laying down. I didn't want to lay down because I was so used to jumping in like that. And now this new one is like that, right? You just jump in. You just jump in like that.
Mine, I have so much Epsom salt that it's increased the density of the water. So I climb up a few stairs and I go over the rail, and now I'm in kind of a seated position, but I just float. It's like
Yeah,
being in the ocean for me.
yeah.
The thing is so huge, I can spin all the way around in my ice bath. For the longest time, I had out on my balcony this piece of crap one from like 2020. And
That's
all my staff, they were saying, Doc, we got to upgrade you.
how much is that one?
PH,
How much is that one?
the one that I have, it's
Yeah.
$30,000 unit.
Oh
And
wow.
I said, I can't even afford my own product. Like, the staff were saying, how could you be doing media from such a crappy old version of the Morozko? We got to put you in a fancy one. And I said, yeah, but as soon as we build one, I sell it. I'd much rather sell it to a customer than, have it for my videos. Well, we have this one that we took to Austin for South by Southwest. And then it went to an event for Andy Elliott. And it was starting to get scratched up. And they say, this will be our event one. We want to store it on your balcony. And my staff kind of upgraded me against my will, Josh. And now I don't ever want to give it up because
Yeah.
once you have this experience, you're like, I can't go back to one of those inflatable,
No,
Alibaba,
you can't. You
Costco.
can't.
Right.
You can't. You can't. Like I said, I think some great ideas if you want to get one, and you really should get one. And again, I talk about this all the time on my podcast, and I know Thomas will also agree with me here. You got to do hard things every single day, and that's the first, like literally, that's the first thing I do. People wake up and they're like, oh, and they're stretching. I literally wake up and I literally go walk,
Oh,
run right into that thing. Don't even think twice about it. Pull the top off. I jump right in, and let me tell you, talk about waking up. Holy moly, man, does that wake you up? But
and how well do you sleep at night?
oh, I could sleep anywhere. I could fall asleep in the middle of the street. I could sleep anywhere,
Yep.
anywhere, anytime. I could fall
Same
asleep.
thing.
It's super easy for me to fall asleep. Never have a problem with sleeping. Need to get more sleep. That's something I need to work on. But with my schedule and all that, it's kind of tough sometimes. To because I also get up super early. But yeah. So listen, where can people find you? Get more information, and if they want to order one. That directly to the website. Like give everyone the information because maybe someone's gonna hear this right now and they're gonna go get one and they should because it's gonna change your life. I'll tell you that right now.
Before you drop, $12,500 on a Morozko, you should get a book. You can go to Amazon, type in uncommon testosterone. If you search for Seager online, you're gonna, there's a short stop for the Rangers, and there's some famous scientist at University of Arizona who studies the stars. I'm lucky to be on page 4. But if you go to Amazon and you type uncommon testosterone, my book is going to come up. If you're curious about the ice baths, you go to morozkoforge.com. MorozkoForge.com. And all my articles are there. You don't actually have to buy the book. You can get everything I've ever published for free right off morozkoforge.com. You can follow me on Instagram. Twitter gets me into more trouble than anything else, Josh. Like I have a big mouth on Twitter. I say some things that anger some people. So if you want to get excited about some crazy stuff that I say on biophotons or vaccines or whatever my views are, you follow me SEAGERTP on Twitter.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Well, I'm sure I would agree with you on many of your views. I don't really voice a lot of them because I try
I
to
bet.
keep it quiet. But at the end of the day, listen, if someone's telling you right now, like doing an ice bath can change your life, increase your testosterone, and just overall, get away from a lot of disease, that's a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And I appreciate you being a guest, Thomas. You're the man. Thank you for what you do, and happy you and I have been able to create a good relationship. And I'm looking forward to more people be coming to your website and purchase some of the Morozkos because they're incredible. And yeah, any questions about it, send Thomas a message. But you should definitely read his information. It's very valuable. I read a lot of his articles, and can't thank you enough, man. And thanks again for being a guest.
This is brilliant. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, until next time, remember, fuel your drive, like, share, subscribe. We want to continue to keep growing the podcast. And as you know, we are now listed in the top 200 podcasts in the world, which is so exciting. I think we were 63 last week. So we will be coming for the #1 spot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's going to happen because that's how we do it. And until next time, fuel your drive. See ya.
Legend. Do you know my name? My name is Legend.